When our daughter was born, Lisa, we wanted to figure out how are we going to educate that child and others that we were hoping to have. And I had a copy of the Kissinger letter, which came out every week. And he was very encouraging about the future. He said the way to protect your future, build your future, he said, is to invest in real estate. He says, particularly that's near water and who has historic importance in one of the following three states, one of which was Maryland. And I got the Maryland newspapers, and it said there's a farm for sale for 100. It was 103 acres at the time, and so I followed up on it, and we went with Lisa to look at the farm, and it just looked lovely. And he had spent an enormous amount of time rebuilding it. As a matter of fact, it had been abandoned and was a chicken coop, and he described how he had cleaned the chicken thing by shooting holes in the floor, and but he had rebuilt it, and we immediately added some other two or three other smaller farms and so on. So we had a lot of acreage on the river, and he described how the house had been occupied by slaves, had been built by slaves. It was about 200 years old, and he had done a marvelous job of rebuilding it all, put in a new staircase and so on. And the oldest confirmation we have about the age was there was a receipt in the year 1830 for a staircase from Great Britain, and that he had built that, and that there was no basement, and so he had to dig a basement to put in the furnace and the circulating heating and so on. And it turned out to be a marvelous invention because we raised a family there. It was a meeting place for our National Association of Counties. When Alice Ann, the first woman to head a political organization, her group came up there. We use it as a meeting place for NACO. Our entire staff every year went up there for 3 days, an invasion of the rural area and so on. But it's always been, we were in dairy at the beginning and now in beef, but it's been occupied, been used as a farm every year that we've owned it, all those years. And Alice Ann Walbrook, my wife, did some marvelous work about in the decoration of it. We had an abandoned attic-like place, and it was restored with a very great taste and so on. And it was important in the careers of our children. For example, the two youngest girls got interested in horses because there was a racetrack nearby. And I used to take all the kids to the racetrack, and we'd bet on the favorite and so on. And one of the things that we did, we got interested in stock car racing. And there's a racetrack up there at Conococheague, and and the races were on a Sunday night, and we always went to the races and stayed on the first turn because that's where the accidents always are. And so I would take home a load full of kids on Sunday night, and they looked African American because they were all covered with dirt and dust. And it led to very great developments in the whole family, and we've had it so long, and we still have it, and it's been a second base for us, and always very productive, and used by a great number of people. It was featured in a program called Amazing Vacation Places, in which they interviewed Alice Ann and I, and also it was a source for of the films that are at George Washington's house in Mount Vernon, and they photographed his crossing of the Delaware. They photographed it at our farm, and they had redecorated our house with